What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Dog Nation's Before the Hedges. October edition, guys. Can you believe we're in the month of October? Glad to see everybody here. Philip Overstreet saying, "Go Dogs" from Vidalia. Guys, Georgia's going to play a football game this weekend. And, it calls to my mind. Anybody seen Jaws? I'm sure there's multiple remakes of it. There's probably like a Jaws 4 or a Jaws 2022 out right now with like Zac Efron or somebody like that, or Jake Gyllenhaal as the boat captain. But it made me think this week's recruiting list and the amount. I think the 5-star count's up to 11 now that I expect to be there, that have started confirming with me. I think the number is like 11 now. To be full transparency and disclosure here, a lot of them are 2024, 2025 5 stars, but those still count. Because remember, guys like Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter were once 5 stars that were a couple years away from being from the current recruiting cycle as well. But pretty massive recruiting weekend. I'm going to go ahead and compare it to the fact that I think I'm going to compare it to the fact that I think it's probably going to wind up being maybe the biggest recruiting weekend of the year, especially maybe the only other contender was that first week in June when, Caleb Downs was in, Arch Manning was in, TJ Shanahan was in, Justice Haynes was in. A lot of those guys didn't choose Georgia. Clarence Dawson, I see your question. The 2023 class is actually ranked number 2 right now at this time. But I tell you what, I think the Dogs are going to need a bigger boat. That's where my Jaws reference was coming from, because I'm going to tell you, there is so many potential dogs that are going to be in town this weekend. I think the hardest job on Saturday, might not be the person getting the Georgia running game cranked up or the Georgia vertical passing offense, or the person making sure that A.D. Mitchell's ankle and everything is great. I think the hardest job might be the person in the Georgia recruiting office trying to figure out who gets those front row seats. Now, there's 2 sets of bleachers, one on each side of the goalpost, and there's about, I believe, 5 or 6 seats in the front row. So there's potentially 12 people that can sit in the front row. But, Georgia's going to have official visitor Damon Wilson, 5-star edge. Really, I feel that thing's going to come down to Georgia or Ohio State right there. And then you've got Roderick Robinson is second. Now, that's the running back. Everybody's frothing at the mouth about what's the running back going to look like in this class. Georgia currently doesn't have any running back commitments. Oh, the horror of that. Everybody's clutching their pearls and, basically giving that, oh, my gosh, thing about Georgia and running backs. But I think really what I've said for a long time now is I think Del McGee is going to do what he did last year when he found a true diamond. When he found a true diamond in the rough in Andrew Paul. And I think there's a lot of guys there. Roderick Robinson is one of those guys. And let's start out with this. We got to always give honors off the tee to the Georgia commitments. And here's a list of the confirmed commitments that I expect to be there on Saturday. I think we've got several full screens of lists to take a look at right now. I think we'll start with the commitments right there and go ahead and add a couple more names to that. There's 5-star AJ Harris, 5-star Landon Thomas. Landon Thomas is a tight end in the 2024 class. I see a lot of folks representing from the Hog Pen, from Moultrie, which I think right now in my mind's eye has probably some of the most sublime sunsets I've seen lately. I was there for the last Wednesday night. I was there for the Lincoln, Florida, Colquitt County game down there in Moultrie. Colquitt County game down there in Moultrie. But look at those guys, Janelle Aguero, Monroe Freeling, Tyler Williams, guys, that's going to be his first ever time between the hedges. He committed to Georgia last week on Tuesday, but he committed to Georgia without even getting the glory. I'm going to say glory, benefit, whatever you want to use, of being between the hedges for a game day in Sanford Stadium. And that's probably a big drawing card for a lot of folks. Kelton Smith, the offensive lineman, Jamal Jarrett, I think he's one of the key puzzles of this 2023 recruiting class. He's going to be there. That's his first actual Sanford Stadium game visit, I believe, as well. A.J. Harris, of course, playing brilliantly. You got the two official visitors, Damon Wilson and Roderick Robinson the second. So those official visitors, guys, are probably going to have to get some primo seating for the Auburn game on Saturday. But you've got a guy like A.J. Harris, 5-star. You've got a guy like Janelle Aguero, Monroe Freeling. You got Tyler Williams. There's a lot of choice seating where those guys are going to have to get real up close and real up into the front. And then these are the commitments. These are the official visitors. And we don't stop there, guys. Like I said, Georgia's going to need a bigger west end zone at some point to house a lot of these people, kind of like that Jaws metaphor I had where the dogs are going to need a bigger boat. Well, look at this right here. The next page, these are more undecided, unofficial visitors that are going to be in town on Saturday, and it's another gangbusters list. You've got, look at all these uncommitted prospects. Everybody's going to concentrate on the 5 stars. I like the way Michael weighted the left side of the graphic here with all the 5 stars. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2025 5 stars. I mean, one of the things about that, guys, I'm just going to break it out. You've got David Sanders there. That's the #1 player in the country for 2025. You see Elijah Griffin. That's the #2 player in the country for 2025. I think Caleb Cunningham is a wide receiver out of Mississippi. He's already 6'4", 6'5". He's the #10 player for 2025. And then, I'm not going to bury the lead. Look at this 5-star edge, Samuel Mpemba. Still not an official visit for Sam. Sammy Brown, a 2024 5-star. Mike Matthews, kind of, sort of. He told me yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, that he wasn't totally certain what he was going to do there, if he was going to make it to Georgia, but he was likely to make it to Georgia. Sammy Brown from Jefferson's going to be there. Jaden Davis. To me, I think there's really 2 guys that will probably likely be the leading contenders now for me for the 2024 quarterback and the next quarterback that will commit to Georgia. I think that's Jaden Davis, and I think it's Ryan Puglisi. We talked about him on Before the Hedges last week from MacTharp Stadium in Moultrie. Look at all those 5 stars on the left side. Now, probably for me, except maybe for Mpemba, the more important side of this list is the right side of the list, because you got 2 very impactful 4 stars in the 2023 class. 4-star defensive lineman Jordan Big Baby Hall, 4-star cornerback Chris Peel. Chris Peel's already taken his official visit to Georgia. He took that back in June. He was there on that first weekend in June where some guys actually committed out of that weekend. CJ Allen committed, Raylan Wilson committed. Georgia did have some success there out of that first weekend in June. A few others, Lawson Lucky was already committed. Pierce Sperling was already committed. Jordan Big Baby Hall, as of right now, I'm calling that an unofficial visit. I know he's got some official visits to sort out. Chris Peel is a very fast corner. The 2 names there in 2024, Zion Ragens, he's out of Jones County, and Zacoby White, he's out of Cartersville area. Those are 2 guys that I think could very well be receivers for Georgia in the 2024 class. I know both of those guys like Georgia a lot. Staff feels great about both of those guys as well. And then another guy, Justice Terry, that's another 2025 guy. That's another top 30, top 40 player in the country. Really big here. And, guys, I'm going to let me see if I can frame this up very nicely. I'm going to tease this. So I don't know if this has ever happened, and I don't know if it's maybe ever will happen again. But on the top targets list for 2023, we haven't started rolling out the top targets for 2024 yet. #1, he's going to be in Sanford on Saturday. #2, he's going to be in Sanford on Saturday. #3, Damon Wilson. You see the name starting to pop up there. Thank you, Michael. He's going to be in Sanford on Saturday. #4, Roderick Robinson, current UCLA commit. He's going to be in Sanford on Saturday. #5, Chris Peel. Really fast cornerback, plays a lot of running back for his high school team in Providence and Charlotte, North Carolina. He's going to be in Athens on Saturday. So if I can't frame you up, I can't frame it up for you guys any better than this. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all being in Sanford Stadium for the Auburn game on Saturday. The list keeps shrinking. The list just keeps getting buck wild and bonkers. I think throw your words out there. You guys got some adjectives for me. Let's play word let's play word Tetris here a little bit, man. You've got robust, you've got extreme, you've got amplified, you've got tapped, you've got turned, you've got too deep. Anybody got some adjectives out there that would help folks out there play along to describe the amount of recruiting muscle that Georgia will have in Sanford Stadium on Saturday? Tom Lavelle's good question about Julian saying. I think LSU has really caught his eye right now. Be interested to see if he makes a decision in the next couple of weeks, or he needs to get back to Athens as well. LSU appears to be a team that has really caught Julian Sayen's eye. Kirby's Visor definitely going to be a top 3 class again. Mike Mazzell, how are you? Justin Wolf says he wants Samuel Mpemba is his number 1 wish list if he had to pick. Big Baby Hall, Kevin Flute, you got it exactly right. He better have prime seating. I think he's been one of the most important players in this class for a long time. Potential pieces, that is. Rhett and Womack, I'm trying to scroll through and catch your question. He knows Mpemba and Wilson are high. Georgia's in a great spot for Mpemba, you believe. But I don't think it's an either or. I think it's all of the above. I think they play different positions. I think Damon would kind of be more like a true Trayvon Walker type, Michael Williams type. I think Gabe would probably be a Trayvon Walker type, or maybe that strong side defensive end type. Although he's coming to Georgia to play edge as well. And then Mpemba, I think, would be kind of like a true, like a Nolan Smith type guy, a kind of true, like, the jack and the 3-4 in Georgia's odd front. That's one of the things Sam told me, is he said that he's really being pitched to play the Nolan Smith role. And against Kent State, Sanford. Then he saw Georgia play against Missouri. He saw Georgia going to play against Auburn this weekend. So it's really a whole lot of stuff there for Sam, getting a chance to see Georgia a lot. Tom Lavelle, you're right. Mason Short is visiting Alabama again. Damon Wilson is huge. All these guys, this is the time of year where you can make your thoughts about, what's that Wolf of Wall Street line? Coffee is for closers. I think that's from Wolf of Wall Street. Maybe it may be from just Wall Street, but you always be closing. This is a great weekend for Georgia to make a lot of headway with a lot of these guys. Like I said, I think probably the biggest standout thing for me is not just that they're 11. I think 11 will probably get to 12 or 13 5-stars currently. Now it's a Wednesday night. Plans can change. Guys can get tired after their games on Friday and not feel like making a trip. As of right now, information out there for me leads me to believe that there will be at least 11 5-stars in the house. Probably go up to about 12. Might have some drop off, might have some pop on. But the more important thing for you guys, I think, because everybody thinks short term when it comes to recruiting, the more important thing right now is that the top 5 guys on Georgia's top targets list for this week, 5 legitimate names. You guys know them: Jordan Big Baby Hall, Samuel Mpemba, Damon Wilson, Roderick Robinson II, Chris Beal. All 5 of the top 5 targets for Georgia, remaining targets, according to Before the Hedges weekly list on Before the Hedges. The top targets list, you've got all 5 of them that will be in Sanford for Saturday. Barry Watkins has a very good question. Barry, there will be a quarterback visiting for Saturday. Actually, there's 2. There's Antoine Hill Jr. That's a guy, 2025, not a 5-star, but that's Trey Hill, the former offensive lineman. Georgia, that's Trey Hill's nephew. He's playing great for Houston County. He's about 6'5". Georgia offered him before his 8th grade year. I think he's completing 74% of his passes, 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, 2 picks for a 5-1 team that just lost for the first time last week, I believe, at Lee County. And then you've got Jaden Davis. Jaden Davis is the nation's number 2 quarterback, another 5-star quarterback. Michigan is in there huge with Jaden Davis as well. I think Deuce, Rhett Womack, I see your question. I think Deuce Robinson right now is kind of a luxury pursuit that has some wheels to it. It has some legs to it. Lawson Lucky, let me give you some updates on him. He will be at Alabama this weekend for the Texas A&M game. Lawson is not taking his official visit to Notre Dame anymore. He has replaced that trip with a trip to Ole Miss. Excuse me. That's what one of the few kind of big-time Georgia commitments. Sorry about that. Need a cough button sometimes when we're live here, but that's one of the few remaining Georgia commits. That's what one of the few remaining Georgia commits will be doing on Saturday. Let me see. Catching some lines. Everybody's talking about last week, guys. Folks, I said this, and it's really simple. I said this after, and everybody's going to say, yeah, but what about the defense? Folks, Jalen Carter has barely played it all this season, especially in second halves of games. Totally different defense, totally different front for Georgia up front when Jalen Carter is not there and he's not healthy. But I think maybe some of the main remedies that, the offense was supposed to cover up a lot of the growing pains for the defense is guys like Shmuel Munden and Kamari Lassiter and Michael Williams, some of those young players, even Javon Dumas-Johnson, who I think is playing excellent right now, but Malachi Starks. The offense was supposed to score a lot of points to maybe camouflage or maybe have people not worry much with the growth on the defensive side of the ball. I think Georgia's a totally different offense. I noticed it against Kent State when you don't have A.D. Mitchell in there. You don't have Ladd McConkey performing at his optimum level where he's like a pretty good number 2 wide receiver for any team in the SEC. And then Georgia's wide receiver group becomes a little more ordinary or a little more just regular SEC offense. And that's what makes it harder to do. Kenny McIntosh has also been playing hurt a lot. So I think Georgia's offense has kind of been defanged a little bit. And that's kind of what adds to all of the unrest right now regarding the nation's number 2 team. One of the visitors I want to make sure I spotlight here and make sure that you guys know about, Tyler Williams, said it before. That's a wide receiver that's expected to be a lot of remedy, a big balm for a lot of those worries. Not having a big play, first-round type guy at receiver, and he will be in Athens this weekend. He was planning to be in Athens this weekend as well. Steve Rogers makes a great point. It's a good thing Georgia has all these great recruiting classes with all these banged up players. It becomes the next man up. The next man up would need some game reps, and he's probably not as talented or as experienced as the frontline starter, but there's not a huge drop-off in skill. Lots of things going on right now. Everybody's want to talk about what's presently up with Georgia football. Folks, my job is to talk about the future and the current recruiting snapshot of Georgia football recruiting. Each and every week, it's brought to you guys by Kroger. One of the things I want to tell you guys is I think this is the time of year where your favorite grocery store, and hey, folks, on this show, everybody's favorite grocery store absolutely has to be absolutely has to be Kroger. Kroger is the time for Halloween when everybody really truly shines. Right now, guys, Kroger has scary good savings for the Halloween season. Save up to 20% on Halloween decor, lights, and of course, all your Halloween candy. Visit your local Kroger or go to Kroger.com/Halloween. And I got something for you guys. It's Halloween season. Not only recruiting season, it's Halloween season. I'm going to tell you this. And please, everybody, let's just weigh in. Let's not be bashful. Let's just come out with it. True confession time. My favorite Halloween candy by far is the peanut butter Twix. Peanut butter Twix. That's it. I can be on keto. I can be on a diet. I can be working out. I can be watching sugar. But somebody sticks a peanut butter Twix or maybe even the peanut butter Snickers in front of my face, and I got some contemplation going on. I want to know, since we're all friends here, what do you guys think? What's your go-to Halloween candy? One of the things I got to show you guys while we're thinking about go-to Halloween candy, and guys, we'll get peaches up. I see all the requests. Everybody wants a peaches sighting. I think we can make peaches happen. I'm going to talk to some of my show assistants on the floor. Maybe we can get a peaches sighting here to make the people happy. Also, another thing to talk about there, let's take a quick look at some other names to know. Guys, I've shrunk this down. You won't see names like Tamarian Parker. You won't see names like James Smith or Quay Russaw there anymore. These are the guys that are also on the recruiting radar. Marcus Deal was just in town a couple weeks ago for an official visit. Jerron Dickey, the wide receiver out of Oregon, committed to Oregon out of California. 3-star running back Jalen Johnson out of Appling County. Jordan Louis is another guy that's going to be in Athens on Saturday. That is the impressive young running back, transferred out of Bryant High School in Tuscaloosa to Georgia for his senior season for more exposure, better competition. Jordan's going to be a visitor as well on Saturday. DeAndre Moore, currently committed to Louisville, is looking around. And then there's the three-star running back, Jamarian Wilcox. A lot of guys. Those are the guys that'll be – some of the guys will be in town. The UGA recruiting radar has shrunk a little bit. I see some of the questions coming in. See somebody talking about a frozen Snickers. How about this? How about Peaches sighting? Randy Hall has a question. How many signees this year? Randy, I think the current number right now that they're looking at is 19 that they currently have. I see Georgia adding about 7 more. I think 25, 26, 27 feels like the range right there, but obviously they have a chance to sign a lot more. Another name that will be on that that will be in Athens on Saturday that I don't think was added to the list was the kicker Peyton Woodring. He's had a great year this year out in Louisiana. Kicked a 55, 56-yarder, I believe. And this is the part where I start talking about a kicker. And then everybody wants to know where's Peaches. Peaches is a little bashful tonight. Peaches, we got Butterfingers. Look at this. Look at this, guys. The people wanted to see Peaches the dog. That's Peaches the dog. Peaches, come here. Come here. Peaches is, she was like, I want to hang out. Peaches the dog. You see him? You got some floppy ears. Man, our star of the show. There she is. What do you think, Peaches? Let's get a better look at the camera. Peaches, how are you? Dog, this is the only show in the country where you can get Georgia football recruiting information, and you can get Peaches, the golden doodle, hanging out, acting too much like a diva on a Wednesday night. Other things to know about Georgia recruiting, guys. Johnny Fuller, Malachi Coleman is a pretty good name. Notice that drama right now with him in Miami. Thought that was pretty cool there. One of those guys to monitor as well. Jamie Huff has a good question. Is there a chance Georgia doubles back and grabs Caden? I think Caden's a great football player. I believe that Caden McDonald will have a great career in Saturdays, but sometimes you got to pick who you got to roll with. And folks, the one thing that we cannot sit here and contradict and kick the tires on is the way Travion Scott picks out his defensive linemen. Georgia closes with a defensive line class that included guys like Jamal Jarrett, Jordan Big Baby Hall. Nothing really too bad to sneeze at right there. Really good type of class putting together as well. Jamie, he's getting really lit up right now. A lot of schools, Florida likes him a lot. Clemson likes him a lot. I think he's going to end up in a very big school, but Caden's a guy, probably 6'2", 6'2.5", not really long, not really big. He's not one of those players besides his film. Listen, I'm not going to say anything about Caden McDonald. I think Caden is a great football player. I think he's a great college football prospect. Sometimes schools have prototypes and size, molds, and metrics about what you're looking for, and I think Georgia has its eyes on guys that are more closely to those size, height, weight, arm length type builds with everything else. But one of the things to look at, Georgia guys still has the number 2 class in the country. They still have a class that I can't believe it, heavily invested on out-of-state guys. The thing that jumps to my mind right now is there's 6 guys in state. Georgia has 7 commitments from the state of Florida, which is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. And you can roll through all those names right there. You got Daniel Harris, the cornerback. You've got Tyler Williams, the wide receiver. You've got Gabe Harris at IMG Academy. You got Pierce Sperling in Florida as well, even though he's kind of a Georgia native. Gabe is kind of a Georgia native, but they're actually still playing their high school ball in Florida. You just got a lot of guys. You sit there and you look at them, Georgia's class, just guys from inside the state of Georgia. but 7 from the state of Florida. Names, really, really effective football players. It fits the mold of what Georgia's looking for. And hey, look at those top targets. Let's say Georgia ends up with their kind of dream close, which everybody wants to see them close out with. That would be adding another guy in out of IMG Academy and Samuel and Pimba. That would be adding Damon Wilson out of Venice High School in Venice, Florida. That number could jump up a lot higher with guys from the state of Florida. Also, when we were rolling up the guys from state of Florida, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Raylan Wilson, the fantastic linebacker. Hopefully you guys have seen some of that video I've posted online or on the Dog Nation forum of Raylan Wilson interacting with a really down south Southern Georgia fan, a Southern gentleman Georgia fan, talking about how he couldn't wait to see him play between the hedges. Also, Troy Bowles is another guy from the state of Florida that, Georgia's bringing in so many in this class in the state of Florida. So a lot of guys going to be the biggest recruiting home game visiting weekend of the year. Auburn's going to be enough to bring the juice for a lot of guys to show up. Let me see right now. Georgia still has 232 guys that have offered. They haven't offered many guys lately. Again, big visits to think about this weekend. You've got the official visit from Damon Wilson. So clutch as I think Georgia is right there in the mix there with Damon Wilson. Also, you've got Roderick Robinson the running back out of California. He's actually from San Diego. He's from Lincoln High School. Folks, if you're like me and really know your high school football teams across the country, you'll hear bells go off and you hear Lincoln High School, the Hornets in San Diego. That's because Marcus Allen, NFL Hall of Famer Marcus Allen, played there. And also NFL Hall of Famer in Georgia. I guess we can call him a Georgia great, even though maybe his was also came out of Lincoln High School as well. Roderick Robinson II is putting up like 400-yard games with 8 touchdowns in a game. He's been gargantuan so far this year for his high school team. So he is definitely one of those major official visitors. And for the rarest time, can't remember since Del McGee has been leading running back recruiting for the University of Georgia. The Dogs have never went into October without a running back commitment in their class. But this is just a different year as well. See some questions, guys. If you have some questions, anything else you want to talk about, feel free to drop it in the chat. I want to say thanks to everybody joining us on YouTube. I want to say thanks to everybody for joining us on Twitter. Thanks to everybody for joining us on Facebook. And Sonia Prescott, you're absolutely right. The sophomore from Lee County. One of the things I'm going to get to doing in our next show is making sure we get our tweets restored. And one of the tweets I would have showed you if we would have wanted to include them in our show this week was the offer from Usmani Chroma out of Lee County. That guy, 4.0 student, wants to be in robotics, wants to be in engineering, averaging 10 yards per carry, had like 1,800 yards and 19 touchdowns a year ago. He's got already that kind of monster numbers right now in 2022 as well. One of those guys that just 6'2", 225, certainly looks the part. Johnny Fuller. Hey, man, let me try something here. Johnny Fuller, when you saw Roderick Robinson with your own eyes, what was the one word that came to your mind? Who do you think he compares to in terms of maybe former Georgia running backs? Very interested in hearing your answer. Monken's headset, how are you doing tonight? Kirby's visor. Yeah, I tweeted something out about this. I think Stetson went 14 for 19 in the second half when he absolutely had to play great. He was down, I think, 16-0 in an SEC road venue without the benefit of a run game. And now, of course, he was 10 out of 24 in the first half. Wasn't really accurate at all. But he was in the second half of the game. He was everything that Georgia needed him to be, or everything that one would expect out of a returning quarterback that led his team to a national championship a year ago. I thought Stet was clutch when he absolutely had to be clutch last week in Missouri. Amy Huff wants to know any flips on the horizon. I'm taking a look at 2 potential flips for this class. Question about Matt Luke, Tom Lavelle. I'll tell you one thing. Matt Luke spoke to the Atlanta Touchdown Club recently. Probably enjoying his good family time right there. Um, that makes a point about is that dude, folks. One of the things I want to tell you about Malachi Starks, everybody that's ever been around him loves the young man. In his hometown of Jefferson, Georgia, they have revered Malachi Starks kind of like he is a Herschel Walker type figure. Maybe Herschel Walker before he got in the political arena, so we can have everybody happy and enthused about that memory. But beloved in his community, worked with the Boys and Girls Club, spent time, gave back to the local youth. But the thing about Malachi, I want you guys to understand, is he played incredible as a high school kind of single wing quarterback. He did not get a lion's share of reps every game at safety. A lot of times Jefferson was well ahead of some other schools, and they were in cruise control in the second half of games. So he really doesn't have a bankroll or a bank stored up inventory, archive, whatever word you want to use, of reps and playing time at safety, especially big boy safety against elite athletes. He didn't go compete in the Under Armour All-American game. He wanted to stay home. He did not go to the, kind of those elite 7-on-7 things. He did not go to the opening, the Under Armour showcases or anything else like that as well. So he doesn't have a lot of flight time, so to speak, as a safety playing against dudes. And that's why I think it's so remarkable about what Malachi Starks is doing right now, because he's producing a memory, a highlight, an attaboy helmet sticker type play in every game he's played so far this season. I'm going to tell you this. Look for this from old Jeff here. I'm going to look for Malachi Starks to come late in games against big-time opponents like kind of the Tennessees, the Mississippi States, the Alabamas. I'd look for him to come in on blitzes and become a guy that at certain opportune times would be able to affect the passer or get to the passer as well. He just has an unbelievable ceiling and a remarkable skill set, guys. We're talking about a Champ Bailey type athlete back there. He long jumped like 24 feet. He ran a 10.5 in the 100. The brightest of futures for Malachi Starks, and I'll say this, it simply could not happen to a nicer young man and a nicer family. That young man deserves, and he acts like he acts like every day he pays a penance, helping out his fellow man, being kind to others for all the blessings he's got from the good Lord up above. That's the way Malachi Starks conducts himself every day. Like every day he's paying rent by being a wonderful person and a wonderful human being for all the gifts that he has been granted, all the blessings in life, like his athletic ability and everything else. Michael Porter is smelling another INT from Starks. Tom Lavelle, probably remember how Champ kind of waited until his sophomore, junior year to get some offensive reps? That's something you could say. Where, especially with a team that needs an extra playmaker or two. Eventually you might see Malachi Starks play, because I'm going to tell you, folks, you think Malachi Starks has walked on water and looked great so far. Where do you see him get the ball in the open field, in a broken field, and a chance to turn on the jets, make a guy miss, show off that wiggle, show off that burst, show how hard it's going to be for him to get on the ground? I think you guys will have a new batch of highlights to get excited about in terms of Malachi Starks. Mark Godfrey has a good question. Mark, I'm going to tell you, Georgia beat Alabama head-to-head for the nation's #1 kicker. His name is Peyton Woodring, also plays baseball. Throws about 83, 85 off the mound. Decent third baseman as well. But Peyton Woodring, nation's #1 kicker. I mean, the guy is got a cannon of a leg for kickoffs. You guys will notice him kind of quickly. I think Jared Zirkel's a name you got to think about as well. Still a scholarship guy at UGA and has been on the travel rosters as well, the dress rosters on the road in the SEC. Zirkel is a name that I think will show up at Georgia kicking in the short term. I think he's got one more season before he graduates as well after this season. But Peyton Woodring is the guy. I mean, Georgia, every 3 or 4 years, tries to go out and find the best kicker in the country. And I believe Georgia did just that with Peyton Woodring out of Louisiana. Probably need to get Peyton on our show. Would you guys like to talk to Peyton? I know people feel a certain type of way about kickers. I think kickers can be eccentric. They can be clever. I've talked to Peyton a bunch of times. He is really good in an interview setting. He is an excellent communicator, and maybe one of our next one of our next Before the Hedges coming up. We'll try and see if we can have Peyton Woodring sit in live. Randy Hall has a question. Who does Georgia lose off the offensive line after this year? Randy, I think Cedric Von Prawn will probably have a draftable grade, maybe second or third round. Something for him to think about there, because you don't see a lot of centers go in the first round. Roderick Jones, I think, will eventually have a second round, first round type grade. And I think Warren McClendon will be that type of guy that will be picked first, second, third round. So I could potentially see Georgia losing 3 starters off the offensive line in the 2023 NFL draft. Let me see. Tyler Granger question about who do I see starting at quarterback next year. I think the playing time is sorting it out kind of the way I think it's going to happen. I think Gunnar Stockton is closing fast. I think Brock Vandegrift has shown great improvement. But I think Carson Beck's probably going to check most of the boxes for me. He seems more comfortable, seems very composed. And this, folks, I'm going to be very frank. If Carson Beck spends a year in Georgia's offense, puts up the numbers that I think he's capable of with the weapons that will be around him in a Todd Monken offense, 6'4", can throw the ball impressively well. Remember, guys, when George Pickens had his pro day and he wanted to simulate what he could do working with an NFL-type arm, he chose Carson Beck to throw for him at pro day. Some NFL scouts were aware of that as well. So one of the things I think about is I think Carson Beck has a very bright future as a Georgia Bulldog. Guys, that's our show. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Another Before the Hedges brought to you by Kroger. But folks, you know it's October. You know what you need to do? You need to get to your Kroger. Excuse me. You got to get to your Kroger, get your Halloween candy, get all the stuff you need to be prepared. You don't want to be that person that runs out or goes and gets it 2 or 3 days before. Kroger is your one-stop shop for all things Halloween. Bet they even have a Halloween makeshift costume if you really need it there as well. But think about Kroger. Think about Halloween. Think about the Kroger Boost and those fuel points. Think about all those savings. The grocery save up to $1. $1 off every gallon with an appropriate number of bank fuel points with the Kroger Boost program. I believe it's only $59 a year. Great deal. You know what's another great deal? It's a chance to hang out with you guys each and every Wednesday for Before the Hedges. I'm Jeff Sintel for DogNation.com. That has been your intel. Be well, and I'll see you guys again later on the pages of DogNation.com. You guys have a great weekend, a great Wednesday night, great rest of your week. And how about this? We'll see everybody in Sanford Stadium on Saturday. Will be a slew of recruits in the house as well. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. We'll see you guys later on DogNation.com.